You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
They said the truth was buried deep in files they tried to burn. David's on the mic now, it's the people's turn. From shadow men in black to creatures in the mist, he's cracking open secrets that the government dismissed. Spooky lights above us, he's tracking every blink. Aliens, cryptids, yeah, he's making you think. With a journal full of clues and a wild-eyed hunch, he's talking ghost towns, lost time, Bigfoot's lunch. Old David don't know, but he's looking for the code on a long dark road where the weird ones go. Mics stay hot when the stories unfold, digging through the static for the truth untold. From pyramids on Mars to sounds in the night, he's chasing after whispers just beyond the light. Tinfoil hat, nah, it's a crown for the bold. Turn the dial up, these tales don't grow old.
Hey, it's David from Down the Rabbit Hole, and you're listening to David Don't Know. Today, I get to talk to a really talented podcaster, someone who I think is on her game. She is awesome. Her podcast is really, really enlightening. She is she works with psilocybin. She works with people in the military who have PTSD, and she saves lives. As far as I'm concerned, that woman is saving lives. Her name is QNAMY. That's her podcast. But first, scary story. This one I got today. So, and the person who told me this story started crying. So it goes like this. Lily, my rideshare rider, asked her if she had a paranormal story. She said yes. She was very excited to tell me. She said that she was good friends with, I'm not going to name her name, but it was an older lady. They worked at Target together, and they were very good, very close friends. And so her friend's husband was a truck driver, so he wasn't home that much. He was always out. So she tried to find things to do when she wasn't working, and her and Lily would do a lot of stuff together. Well, one day the friend asked Lily if she would go to the doctor with her. And Lily asked, why? Why do you, something wrong? And she said, no, I just want, will you go with me? And so she said, yes, she went. Turns out she had terminal cancer. She had already known that something was wrong. The doctors had told her they found something. It was lung cancer. It was terminal. And so Lily, this person was quite amazing. Let me tell you, Lily is one of those friends that you get once in a lifetime, because she was by her friend's side the entire time. Even when it was pretty much, hospice time, this lady's kids were there, her husband was there, but Lily was the one that was sitting by her, holding her hand and talking to her, even when she couldn't talk back, and she was pretty much, she had a lot of morphine. They're trying to get her comfortable. She would talk to her. She would stay late. And on this particular day, she left at 2 to 3 in the morning to go home. She kissed her on the forehead, and she told her, if you are ready to go, go. You don't have to fight it anymore. We're going to be okay. Go on and go. And then she went home. And from what I understand, she lives kind of far. Well, that night she had trouble sleeping. She stayed up late, past the 3 a.m. She was tossing and turning. Finally, she fell asleep. And then she woke up. She could tell it was morning because she can see the light coming in from the window. And then she saw her friend sitting at the end of the bed. And she looked normal. She looked awake, like some miracle. She was sitting there. And Lily said, "Oh my God, you're here. What happened? Is everything okay?" And her friend just smiled at her, never said a word. Lily got up and went to her friend and hugged her and told her, "Oh, I love you so much," and all this stuff. And it was at this moment when she was telling me the story that she stopped talking, and I had a feeling. I looked back and she started to cry because it was such an emotional thing. This is your best friend, and she's hugging her, and she said, for a moment I thought the cancer was gone. I thought maybe I had a dream of that cancer, and the whole thing was just a dream, and she was fine, and here she is. And then after the hug, and she turned around and her friend was gone. It wasn't long after that one of her friend's daughters called her to let her know that she had passed. Lily was, just imagine. What did you experience? Did her friend want to say goodbye to her and thank her? Was that what that was for? The daughter said on the phone that she would hold her body there so she could come and say goodbye properly before they, contacted the services to come get her. And Lily said, "That's okay." She said goodbye to me. And I think that's one of the sweetest stories I've heard paranormal wise in a long time. And I've heard this has happened before. I've read about it, heard about it. It's just one of the sweetest stories I've heard. And so I apologized to her for making her cry, but she said, no. I wanted to tell the story. I wanted you to hear it. And so there it is. All right, I want to try something new. I want to, and I'm sorry for those who are listening on, audio only. If you want to see this, I'm going to put it in YouTube, of course. Go to my YouTube, Dayvid from DTRH, and you will see this video. I'm going to play this video, and I want to know what you guys think about this. So here we go. All right. So this video, if I can get to it, was sent or it's actually the OG, was posting scary vids on IG. I would suggest you go follow that page. Great page if you love the paranormal. And here is the video. Some guy, he's washing dishes, he's singing. Watch that, there's a shadow there. See it? It's just watching him. Okay, some stuff is moving. It's a doll that moved on that little tray table. There goes that shadow again. Okay. Shadow's gonna make another appearance. There it is, leaving the room. What do you think, guys? Is that real? Or was it faked? I don't know. It could be faked. Who knows? I certainly don't. All right, guys. Again, if you are listening to this and you want to see, go to my YouTube page and you can see that little portion in the beginning. Thank you so much. Let's get it on.
Where the weird ones go production.
Hey everybody, it's David from Down the Rabbit Hole, the Duke of Darkness. And today I have a very special guest. She's an awesome, I think, Army veteran, which I'm really excited about. She has her own show. It's called QNAMY, and I'm going to bring her out right now. Please welcome Amy. What's your last name? Charlesworth. Oh, I love that.
You got to put your finger, like your pinky out when you say it, though. It's really fancy.
Oh,
So, Charlesworth. Yes.
$1 billion. Okay.
Billion. Yeah. 1 trillion.
I love it. I had a dog named Charlie. She was my favorite, and she passed away a year ago. But she was worth $1 billion. I'll tell you that right now. She was awesome.
I have a dog right now named Charlie.
His really?
Full name is Charlie Charlesworth, and he's a Boston Terrier. I couldn't imagine losing him, so I'm so sorry you lost your dog a year ago.
Yeah, I'm still like suffering through it. It's been a year, I thought it would be easier, but it's not. It's just not. But love the name. You are, did I get that right? An Army veteran, correct?
Yes. Thank you. 16 years in the Army.
Oh my God, that's awesome. So did you retire from the Army, or is that you have to be 20 years in?
It's usually 20 years, for retirement. I just got done with my contracts. I'd been doing it since I was 17, and I was like, I don't want to re-up. I don't want to do it anymore. I don't want to go the extra 4. I'm just done. So yeah.
That's cool. Okay, so I was watching your show earlier today, and with the gentleman, we're just talking about this. You mentioned that you were the first woman to. What was that?
So you're probably referring to Rappel Master. So I was the first woman in the history of the Oregon Army National Guard to become a Rappel Master, and 12th in the history of the Army at the time. I'm sure there's been other women who have done it since then. This was back in 2014. But yes, women being Rappel Masters was not very common at the time. And I got a really cool award for it from the governor of Oregon at the time. So yeah, it was pretty fun.
That is so cool, man. Women belong in the military, as far as I'm concerned, man. That's awesome. You guys can do anything we can do. You definitely can do more things that I can do. I know that for a fact right now.
Well, what's funny about this whole conversation, this narrative about men versus women and where should they be within the military, et cetera. People always focus on the tip of the spear positions, like in combat, right? Women shouldn't be in combat. There are 8 800 career fields in the military. 800. That's not a
Wow.
typo or, a misclaim. There are 800 careers in the military. So there couldn't quite possibly be only men doing a lot of those things, right? So women are very needed in the military. There's a lot of different ways that they plug in. And we're unique in the United States. I wouldn't say 100% unique, but like we're not like a lot of the other countries where their men and women have been working on the front lines together for history sense. So even when you go all the way back to times where we're using spears and stuff, you go look at African history and culture, the women were the warriors. So it's really really interesting how we've morphed and shifted the conversation about where women belong when it comes to wartime today. Now I will say there are definitely things that men can do that women can't physically in some cases, but there's some cases men can't do the things that women can do. So when I was going through air assault school as an example, 300 people show up on day 0 to be admitted to that course. Well, over 150, 160 people dropped out when I was there. Most of them were men. Most of them were men. And so I remained and I graduated from that course. And so these general terms that we use of all women can't or all men can't, I think that's silly. There's always a place for everybody. We just need to find the right home for them.
Humans can, right? I mean, come on.
Humans can. Yep.
So I'm a rideshare driver, right? And so I pick up all sorts of people. There was this, it has to be in the summertime. I picked up a couple of young ladies. They got in and there was a break from basic, I think, or some sort of training they were doing. And so we got into the subject of what, one was the leader and the other was like whatever. And they were telling me, this is so hilarious to me, that they were doing these operations, these training exercises, and they would break them into groups, right? And these two girls were in one group and there was another in another group, and there were men and women. And they were able to complete whatever assignment they were supposed to do, but they couldn't complete it unless everyone did it, right? So they would have to like carry people, like men, I mean, full-grown men, and they would have to carry them out. And some of the men couldn't do it. As a matter of fact, she was telling me that a lot of the men on the group couldn't do it. So they had to complete it for them. And I was like, you guys freaking rock. You guys
Well, this is
awesome.
the thing. I mean, we just, again, overgeneralize, categorize people as men or women, period.
Yeah.
And then we're not accounting for body size, shape, athletic ability, etc. I'm a woman who is 5'9". I weigh 130-ish pounds now. But in my peak, when I was, 25 and working out every single day, I mean, I was benching like 140, 145, somewhere in there.
Really?
Benching,
Nice.
right? And crushing the PT test at the male standards, just for clarity for anyone tracking that kind of stuff. And then you have men that are 5'5", 5'6", maybe they're 115 pounds, and that they don't work out a lot. They're not throwing around weights. They're not taking protein and caring about their muscle size or their strength or endurance. So that man is not going to outperform me when it comes to a physical test, right? He's not going to be better than me with all my training and everything in a combat scenario. So not to say that I'm better than anyone or anything like that, but that you can't like overgeneralize, right? All men can do X and women can't do X, because that's just not true when it comes to your physical size and fitness and what you put into it training wise.
I love that. That's awesome. And so I really enjoyed your show. It's Queen Amy, right? QNAMY.
QNAMY, yeah, Queen Amy, and it's not like a ego thing. It's just literally a nickname. With my last name being Charlesworth and me being from England, my accent's going to throw everyone off. It's a whole nother story. I had a British accent growing up, and
no way.
Yeah. I'm a dual citizen now, but born there. Whole family's there now, except for a couple of stragglers that came over to the U.S. with me. But because of my last name and being so kind of posh and fancy sounding, I got nicknamed the Queen. And so when I made my Instagram handle initially years ago, when Instagram first came out, it was QNAMY, just to be kind of goofy, and it stuck. So that's where it comes from.
I like it. That's good. It sticks. And so I'm looking at the description of your show, and it's like dives into the intersection of spirituality, mental health, psychedelics, and the unknown, which is one of my favorite subjects, the unknown. I love that stuff. So this is great. What episodes what kind of unknown stuff did you cover? in
Yeah,
any of your
so
episodes.
I'm going down rabbit holes, which I know that's your show title. It's my favorite
That's me.
saying. Um, we spend a lot of time, my guests and I, talking about things like psychic power.
Mhm.
I just did an episode recently on afterlives, so or reincarnation, multiple
Right.
lives, right? Exploring those things. I'm also right now tapping into alien technology and
Mm.
all kinds of things. Like we go down all kinds of rabbit holes. The whole point is like what basically anything that is trending out there, we talk about it. So tarot card reading, you name it.
That's awesome. Yeah, we just covered. I say we. It's just me doing this, but I just covered past lives. I interviewed a guy who was a certified hypnotherapist that like specialized in past lives.
Is that
And
the QHHT method by chance that you talked to him about?
oh, that's a good question. I don't
The
have the
Dolores
answer to that.
Cannon. Yeah, so Dolores Cannon was one of the, she's not the only one, but she was a big
Hmm.
one that was
Yeah.
talking about past lives. And I interviewed a guy, Euron DeWitt, who's based in Los Angeles, who was trained by Dolores Cannon on past lives. And
Oh
it's the
wow.
QHHT method, the quantum healing hypnosis technique, I think
Yeah.
is what it is. Yeah.
I don't think he the way he described it, his name is oh my god, now I forgot his name. Oh my god, Jonathan Robinson, and he's out of Michigan. He described himself as being between Dolores Cannon and Michael Newton. I
Oh,
don't know if
wow.
you're familiar with Michael Newton, but he wrote the book called Journey of Souls. He was also a certified hypnotist, and he a psychotherapist and all this, and he accidentally discovered past lives. We're going like back, I don't know, 80s or something like that, but he accidentally asked a question, and the response he got from the person that was hypnotized was like a past life, and he was totally dumbfounded. So he started going deeper and deeper, and he found a lot of stuff. So yeah, he says he's somewhere between that guy's more scientific, and of course Dolores is more spiritual, right? So it was really interesting. I love that stuff. I love it when little kids are talking about, I used to be this person and I did this and I did that. And then they go and research it and it's true. They were actually that person. How do you explain that? How can they know any of that stuff? So I don't know. I love it. I love past lives.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to talk about aliens today. I've been chomping at the bit to talk about aliens, and I took 16 episodes to get here, but I want to know what you know, Amy. Talk to me. What's going on? What do you like? What's your stuff?
I'm right now just in exploration mode myself, but what I do have is a very open mind, and what I really love is history. And I don't think the history as we know it, what's being taught in schools, is necessarily our history, right? This concept of us only being around a couple of thousands of years, maybe before Jesus Christ, I think is ludicrous. And there's so many structures around the world that we just can't explain, right? They line up with the stars. I'm talking about the pyramids. I'm talking about
Right.
in England, the Stonehenge sites that are even less common than what I'm talking about now. And so I think astrology, the positioning of things on the earth, there's if you follow Graham Hancock at all, he's got some incredible series out there that are free to watch, YouTube, etc., where he goes into depth about the cuts of certain structures that we can see where there's no freaking way that it would have been made by a chisel and hammer if we're following the timeline that we're taught in schools. And they're so perfect. And then we see these structures that are the same in other parts of the world that, if we follow the timeline we're taught in schools, there's no way that those similar structures or similar patterns or similar things could be found in those particular separate continents around the world, because now we're talking about like the movement of people during a time when we didn't even have cars or planes, or, we weren't really using ship routes yet and things like that based on the timeline we're taught. So that kind of blows that whole theory open. So who was here before us and how old are we? And, you start looking at Egyptian history, and that you can again go down rabbit holes about Egyptian history, like who was there before the Egyptians and how far back does this go? So I'm really fascinated about the historical side of things and what pops up across all religions, or most religions, I should say, or most cultures. Because when you start talking to civilizations that are around the world and asking their origin stories. Because, of course, we know our origin story is the Bible here in American culture, right? And
Right.
yet you start asking other cultures about their origin stories, and they tell you some crazy, wild things.
Mhm.
And so, one example that comes to mind is in Africa, in Gabon, where they serve things like iboga and ibogaine, which is on the psychedelic route. They have a separate Bible, and their separate Bible has something that talks about white people being from the stars. And so
Oh,
it's like,
wow.
well, where did that come from? And how old is that? And is that valid, et cetera? This is a origin story that's been passed down orally, but I think they actually have like a physical Bible where some of this
Oh,
information
that's
is in there.
cool.
So when you look at scrolls and you look at some of these ancient kind of stories that have been passed down from other cultures, you start to question, like, well, hold on, there's something here, right? There's crossover. Like there's in a lot of religions and a lot of cultures, there's 7 sages or 7 archangels or whatever. The number 7
Right.
pops up a lot. So
A
where I'm
lot.
going with this in relationship to aliens is like, how old are we? Where's the technology and the civilizations that were here long before us? Because we definitely had technology. So where'd that go? Because
Mhm.
it totally blows the theory out of the water that you hear coming out of the schools of thought that archaeologists have in terms of timeline and tools and power and all of that. Energy sources, et cetera.
Mhm.
So, because of course, if you got a big fancy laser, well, how are you powering it?
Right.
So there's all these different things. So right now, I just have a lot of questions. So I don't have a stance. I'm not ready or prepared to have a stance. But what other than to say, I don't think we're being told the truth. I think we know that there's some groups around the world that know a lot more than they're letting on or displaying. Like, I think the Catholic Church has a treasure trove of information that they're
Mhm.
not willing to share
They
at the
do.
Vatican, that they're keeping in their library. We've lost a lot of information through the destruction of things like the Great Library of Alexandria and
Right.
other during the German War, when they were blowing up and destroying really key things around the world, or where they were stealing them and stashing them in cave systems around the world, right? So we've lost a lot of stuff. So I just
Right.
have a lot of questions. But right now, I'm particularly interested in what's going on. I think everyone's kind of seeing it around the internet, this 3-eye atlas alien
Yep.
ship, allegedly,
Allegedly.
structure thing that's heading our way.
Mhm.
And so I've been nerding out a little bit about that and Project Bluebeam and the intersection of them, and really paying attention to like what some of the total nerds about this space, like Jeremy Corbell and some others are saying. So I'll
Mhm.
pause there. I don't know if that answers your question, but it definitely opens up a few doors.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You did. Yeah. And I have to say I have a lot of respect for the way you approach it. You have an open mind and you haven't decided yet. And see that I think that is so important, because I have a lot of people that automatically assume this or assume that. And I don't like that. Think about it a little bit, do a little research on your own, right? And try to find out. Like, for example, let me tell you this. I had posted today, as a matter of fact, a post. Actually, it was a reel about 46 chromosomes. That's how many chromosomes we have, right? But if you look at like all of the primates on Earth, they have 48, right? And so there's some theory there that our DNA was manipulated at some point. And if you look at like the Neanderthal and the, what do they call the
Denisovians.
those guys,
Yeah.
those two groups uh, disappeared right as we were blossoming. Why was that? So I heard a lot about the Anunnaki being here, like they came here and they needed help mining or whatever, and so they decided to take these two groups, or one of these two groups, and manipulate the DNA, right, and create basically modern man. And I'm like trying to think about, well, what happened to those other groups? Did they just disappear, or did these people eliminate them because they wanted to make sure that we thrived? Or there's just so much. And the fact that you can actually look at the DNA and there are those other little links that are cut on purpose, like it's like actually cut. Like why why did they do this? You know, because they wanted to make sure we only lived 100 years. They wanted to, you know, I don't know. I just think it's fascinating. This stuff is fascinating.
Oh yeah.
Three-Eye Atlas is absolutely fascinating because it is not acting like a comet. It's not acting like an asteroid. It's making course corrections, which is this is the part, and I think you'll agree with. This is so hard to get any actual data on this thing because they're hiding it. Why is NASA and the Chinese government hiding this information? They already know what it looks like. They have video of this, and they don't want to share it. They're saying conveniently that it's the government shutdown. And you know, China is always trying to get one up on us, right? They want to show that they're better, and they can have, and then they don't actually show what they have. That was shocking to me. I could not believe that. But
and I'll just I'll say for the audience here, if anyone's like, what are we talking about? There's just like a few facts to get you spun up here. So 3-Eye Atlas, it's a interstellar object. We don't know that it's like a UFO, or we don't exactly know what it is.
Not enough data, right?
Not enough data, exactly. But it is moving really quickly. It was discovered July 1st of this year, and it is coming at us really quickly. So its trajectory is hyperbolic, which means it's not gravitationally bound to the sun. And so it's passing through the solar system from the outside. So it's not acting or behaving like a traditional comet would, or some kind of space junk that you might, you know, have moving kind of towards the sun. It's literally changing the trajectory at its own will. And so even though it has some comet-like behavior, like a fuzzy envelope around it, tail forming, etc., it's still not exactly quite appearing like a comet. So they do think it's probably billions of years old, and it's really, really big. And they're thinking that it'll probably approach our the closest to us around the 29th of October, or maybe like mid-November, somewhere in there. But
perihelion is going to be the 29th to the 30th, right?
Yeah.
When it comes around the sun. Yes.
Yeah, and so there's no proof that it's necessarily alien technology, but it's the speed of which it's traveling, and then also the trajectory that it was on. It times really, really well with a lot of stories that are around the Earth in terms of like timeline for contact and things like that. So everyone's going nuts about it. I mean, the New York Post is writing stories, which not a really credible source, but like there's a lot of people buzzing about it because there's been so much lead up from the Space Force, from the Pentagon talking about it, from there being funds set aside specifically for UFO exploration, from all the stuff coming out from 30 years ago, from records being released from the Bob Lazar days, where they're really starting to talk way more about like this whole topic of aliens and admit and acknowledge that we do have alien spacecraft. And so all of this stuff is just timing so perfectly that we're like, what is this thing? And there's a school of thought that it might be first contact, but there's also a lot of OGs that have been in the alien space for a really long time that are saying absolutely not, that it's not this, and it's probably more along the lines of Project Bluebeam.
Yes, Project Bluebeam. I actually covered that on another show. I did the research on it, and the guy who wrote the book on it was Canadian, Serge Monast. I can't remember. I think it's Monast, something like that. Sir, but anyway, he wrote the book. He was a journalist in Canada, and he got this information, and he accidentally died at 50.
Accidentally.
I think it's 51.
His name was Sergei Monast, Canadian investigative journalist and conspiracy theorist, and died very mysteriously.
He was they were harassing him. The government was harassing him. And I'm not really clear if it's like the Canadian government or if it was the American government, but I do know he was being harassed. Then he was arrested, right? And he spent the night in jail. And it was after he was released, he went home, and that's where he died of a heart attack. And it wasn't long after this, the CIA had to release the basically a secret that they did have a device that could cause heart attacks. It's like a gun that shoots this device that is untraceable and causes heart attacks. It was not long after that.
Well,
So
we're going to go
what?
down a whole rabbit hole with that too, because now there's these energy cannons that I actually know
Hmm.
somebody personally that was in the military that got hit by an energy cannon, and it's so secret.
Oh
It's
my God.
so it's actually called Havana syndrome. If you Google it, it's there's a whole thing.
Yes.
Yeah, that and it's real. It's so legitimate. So there's a
Wow.
lot of really interesting weapons that we are testing, trialing, have access to, et cetera. But again, for those who are like, what is Project Bluebeam? This is a coordinated effort across multiple governments to fake an alien invasion, visitation, whatever, because what is the
Yeah,
best way to unite anybody? It's to create a common enemy. And so
exactly.
it's to warm the human civilization up to the idea that one, we're not alone, which of course we're not, that just mathematically
Mhm.
that wouldn't make sense, but that we're
Said that
actually
many
getting
times myself.
contacted. And now this is an effort to basically get rid of independent religions and to unite everybody against a one world for a one world order,
Right.
one government, and pit everybody kind of against this foreign entity, which would be aliens. So that's Project Bluebeam. It's just a theory or a conspiracy at this point, but it sounds pretty likely and pretty plausible for where the world's going.
It's pretty old, this project. It's been around for a long time. The date it was supposed to be enacted is 2027. They've been talking about 2027 forever. It could be a couple of years ahead, it could be a couple of years before. And now it looks like with Three Eye Atlas making its turn, because my prediction is it's just going to keep on going. Right. I think it's just going to keep on going and it's going to be great. It's very interesting. But if it does that and they present, because the idea is they're going to have this space aged, actually, it's like alien tech that is a holographic alien tech that's so excellent, you'll actually believe that it's really in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
So they may use that to pretend it's Three Eye Atlas and start this whole thing, and which would be an attack on everybody, on humanity, essentially. And a lot of people, according to this project, are going to die. It's going to reduce the population a great deal, and they're going to reunite, like try to unite all the nations. Just like you said, it's going to be one world government kind of thing. But the funniest part about this to me is at some point they're going to present Jesus in the sky.
Mm.
Using the holographic tech.
Do you follow Daryl Anka at all?
Yes.
Yeah, so Daryl Anka, another alien figure in our community, he channels an
Bashar.
entity. Yeah, Bashar.
Yeah.
And he also, interestingly, when you said 2027, he tells his followers that 2027 is the time of actual first contact. So everything is just like, I'm eager for time to come, because what's the best way to decide whether these things are going to be real or something you should pay attention to is, of course, time, just to let them happen and play out. But the timeline of everything, it's just so synergistic. It definitely it feels like something's happening, something's going on. But that's why discernment is so incredibly important during this time, because there's so many fraudful stories and just like absolute baloney things that are meant to create division and fear and all of that. And so, it's just such an interesting time of like, what's real, what's not real. And I would definitely pay attention to people like Jeremy Corbell, because they've been studying alien interactions, following up on stories, talking to the government, going to the government hearings. And so like, they're really ear to the ground. And like, these are the types of people where if there was something to actually be like, aliens, like, yes, they would be like, this is legit. But this is a time where they're like, no, this is absolute baloney.
Yeah.
They're literally trying to con you. We now have all of this drone technology and everything to put stuff in the skies. So that's why I say just a spoonful of discernment goes a long way when you're looking at the stuff. Yeah.
And you had brought up Jeremy before, and there's a video. I posted this video on Down the Rabbit Hole where he seems like he's not wanting to come out and say it, but he's saying, watch for this.
Yeah.
It's going to come. It's going to be a ship. They're going to tell you that it's alien. It's not. It's Project Bluebeam. They're going to say all these things. And he even shows like a text on his phone because he's getting this information from someone, but he doesn't want to show exactly what and he's saying, you just wait. It's coming. It's not aliens, right? And this is in January, and we don't get anything about 3i Atlas till July 1st.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Right.
and
And so
it's
what?
circulating. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's absolutely
Oh,
everywhere. This
yeah.
is the thing. I'm so curious about humans in general right now and the state of mind that we're all in, and how just the
Mhm.
social media has inundated us with so much fake news, AI
Yeah.
generated content, you name it, that we're literally talking about actual aliens at the Senate level. They're having meetings in government openly. You can go on and watch it. We're talking about real aliens, real technology. Pilots from the military are saying, I just interacted with an alien on this date at this
Mhm.
time. Here's what happened. And their ships and stuff. And we're all just like carrying on as normal. No one's
Yeah.
talking about it besides people like you and I who are like, what's going
Right.
on here? But it's not changing anyone's life. No one's, reacting in any certain kind of way that would make sense. So it's like we're so desensitized. It's like, guys, we're talking about aliens here.
I
like,
know.
oh,
It's
it's
so
just so
nuts.
mind blowing. Yeah.
I have to tell you, I'm a rideshare driver, and I picked up this gentleman. He turned out to be a active military man from the Marines. He was describing his thing. He wanted to get out. He was like, I've had enough of this. I have 2 more years on active, where he's one of the guys that goes out and does the dirty work. Whenever they send us in, it's to take care of things, right?
Mm.
And he was telling me how he had lost so many friends and they don't seem to care. He's really disgruntled with everything. This is right after I talked about Project Bluebeam, right? I had just gone on a show. I did the whole research. I laid it all out, and I just said, think for yourself. If this could be fake, who knows? But here it is. Here's what they said. I don't know what's going on. And so this gentleman starts talking about, do you remember in Iraq where we went in and they just gave up? And I said, yeah, I do remember that. He goes, we have this weapon. It's actually from aliens. It's this weapon that we drop it. It's like a tank. It's like a bus. You just drop it in and it hits 1,000 hearts. And when it does that, the people, they give up. They quit. They're so panicky that they just give up. And that's what we use. And that's real. That's real.
Wow.
I was like, really, man? Are you serious? He goes, yeah. We have all sorts of equipment that we use that's not Earth made.
Mm-hmm. Which, going back to our original conversation that we started with about like men versus women in wartime, etc. I've been to Afghanistan. I've been in this shit, right? Like, and I can tell you right now, we're not fighting wars the way we used to.
Wow.
When I went into basic training in 2006, we were digging foxholes as part of our basic training stuff. And I always used to laugh, like, who's digging a freaking foxhole? Like, it's going to be so rare. And lo and behold, here we are today. Now we're using things like drones and all of these other new modern warfare technology items are coming out on the market, things we don't even know about that are in just private development. And so, it's been really interesting to watch what's happening in the space of technology, AI. Obviously, warfare is now going to things like, how can we hack into systems like power and water and utilities and shut things down on the enemy side without ever having to go onto their territory, just based on being able to hack into systems. So warfare is changing in general, and so I'm so curious how that's going to translate to how we approach war with the scale that's happening right now in future times.
Absolutely. Yeah. And this guy was this gentleman that I was dropping him off, right? And so I gathered he was disgruntled. He's a disgruntled Marine on the top level, doing whatever shadow stuff he's doing. He's done, and I drop him off, and he says, "Hey, and since I'm never going to see you again, Project Bluebeam, it's real." And then he got out and closed the door.
Wow.
It shook me to my core, man, because I was like, is this a thing where they're trying to scare me to not talk, or is this guy being serious? Is this guy real? And he's giving me the real stuff about this Project Bluebeam. I don't know.
Yeah. What's really interesting on that front is there's a school of thought that exists about who really is in charge of the world, who's really in charge of the presidents, like, et cetera. We think because we see Trump that, Trump's the enemy, or Trump's, the greatest guy, depending on which side of the fence that you're on, and that he's making all of these decisions and he's impacting everything. But there's a school of thought. There's actually like a whole organization. Some people call it the Illuminati. Some people call it other things.
I call it the cabal. That's what I call it.
Yep. See, there's a lot of different names for it that exists behind the scene. These are people that don't want to be famous, that don't want to be in the limelight, right? There's companies like, hold on, let me get this right, BlackRock or whatever.
Yes.
These large scale organizations that are incredibly wealthy, that are funding most of this stuff. Like, I always follow the trail of the money. Like, where's the money? Like, what is the purpose? What's the money doing? Like, who is this benefiting? And you just follow these threads, and it's really interesting. Like, who are the people behind the scenes that don't want to be known, that are actually the ones, pulling the trigger and, making these decisions, et cetera? Because the concept of Project Bluebeam, aliens aside, the concept of it makes sense. Like, it could be very legitimate that, we're moving away from organized religions that are all separate. And we're moving towards a unified front, where one group or one entity, whatever, is controlling all of the planet, all of the world, which is not far off of happening at all. I mean, you just look at like structures like the UN, et cetera. We get all these countries together, and have them operating off of the same playbook, same rule book, like it's happening. And then digital currencies as well, right? We're seeing the emergence of digital currencies and AI and things like that. Where in Europe right now, there's also a digital, not passport, but like a digital, it's like a recognition tool where it has all your biometrics and everything, and you're going to need that to get in and out of countries. That's coming up right now. That's happening in Europe. And so there's this massive shift towards kind of setting the stage for this to happen, where next thing you know, we're going to have, this breakdown of religions, which is exactly what aliens would do and should do, is defy the origin story that we've all been told since birth. So it's just really interesting what's happening. And it's all just so synchronistic and so timely in terms of the rollout of it all.
Do you think a one world government would be a bad thing?
Yes, absolutely.
You do?
Absolutely.
And why do you think that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, we're doing it the wrong way now too. Like, I don't think having all of these separate governments and all fighting against each other, et cetera, is the right move either. But there's always the question of like, okay, let's say that we had one world government. Who's running it? What is the election system like? And it's going to be hundreds of years before you're even going to be remotely close to being able to kind of die off all of the historical knowledge that exists that would be fighting against it, because you're going to have all of these independent religions, these independent backgrounds, these different walks of life, right? Like, you're not going to have the extreme Islam folks that have been blowing people up and harming women and, causing terror on the same page as Christians, as an example, right? That's going to take some time for those things to naturally shed. So I would want to know who is going to be in charge of it, and what would that look like? Like, there would need to be like some radical changes for me to say yes to that, because right now nobody's trusting anybody. Nobody's getting along with anybody. So I think we're really, really far off of like naturally having a one world order.
I just think and you're right, the different religions around the world, it would be insane. But if we could all get on the same page, I believe, I don't really know about the Galactic Federation. I don't know if you heard about this.
I have.
But, okay. So obviously, if let's just say you and I are part of the Galactic Federation, would we want Earthlings on that? Hell no, I don't think so. We can't get along. We're going to destroy ourselves.
I have heard some theories, and of course these are just theories, that the Galactic Federation have, hopefully I'm saying this right, interbred with humans a long time ago. There's other theories about that. There's other theories about like angels interbreeding with humans a long time ago, which is how we ended up with giants on the planet at one point, and all these. There's just so many theories, guys. And I'm not saying I believe them, but I'm open-minded and I'm always curious. But that there's that some of the people that are being born right now are here through alien instruction, or alien intention, alien intervention, where they're placed, like we think of everything very like one way, very natural, like you know, man meets a woman, has a baby, etc. There couldn't
Mhm.
possibly be any intervention. There's schools of thought that exist that there's hybrids that are on the earth right now
Oh
and
yeah.
look and act and walk and talk like humans, that were born from humans, etc., but they're actually not human, and that when the time is right they'll be awakened. So it's just,
Right.
yeah, there's all these different schools of thoughts that exist. I'm never going to turn down a good new theory or a good idea when I'm listening to it. I think it would be silly to blow off everything, but
Yeah.
I think some people have a point about that. Maybe it's a very interesting concept. At least it's very possible.
I like that theory. I think there's something to it. I can't explain it, but I think there's something to it. There's also, so I don't know if you heard about, because there's so much misinformation right now about this 3-eye atlas, right? But one of the things that did come up about 2 or 3 weeks ago was a message in South America, I believe. It was South America, some country in South America got a message from 3-eye atlas. They're claiming this. And so they ran it through an AI, try to figure out what it is. And the message essentially was this: we're on our way. You have nothing to fear. We're going to pick up our star seeds. We're there to pick up our star seeds. And we'll be there soon. We'll be there soon was the end. Saying we'll be there soon twice.
Take me.
Yeah, right.
I
Hey,
will
we
go.
might be star seeds. You never know. You know
I
what I'm
have
saying?
told everybody, like, if I get abducted by aliens, even if I die, I died happy. I died doing what I wanted to do. I'm living my best life. If I'm still alive, leave me alone and let me live. Okay. Like, there's not a ton of stuff here on planet Earth that brings me joy, but aliens is one of them. And so if I get abducted, I'm having a good time. So you no need to
Yeah,
send a search party. Yeah.
absolutely. But we're gonna find out. So if, because I don't think that's real. Honestly, I don't think it's real. But we're gonna find out in a month or so. We're gonna have more answers,
I hope
right?
so.
And
There's been
this
a lot
world
of
could
theories.
completely change.
I
Yeah, there's
hope
so many
so.
theories. But if it comes and does land, the world is going to completely change. It can go two ways. It can go to where, like, I don't know if you've ever seen V. Have you ever seen that TV show? It's an old TV show in the 80s called V for Victory.
No.
It was a mini series. I think it was on ABC, I think. And it was so good. But it was like basically aliens landed. There's a mothership in the sky and they land. They come out there. They look like humans, right? And so they're here to help, and they're trying to get people to join them, and they have a little group. They're trying to like blend all the humans together, and it turns out they're actually reptilians because someone accidentally rips their skin, and you can see they're reptiles under there. And so there's a battle, right? So it was a great show. I actually think if 3-eye atlas does land, that they might actually be human, because any
It wouldn't
other
surprise me.
UFO, it wouldn't surprise me. I think there are other humans in the universe. I think we're just an experiment that they keep trying out in different planets. That could be. It's just one of my theories. I don't know if it's right or not, but could you imagine if they landed and they're like, "Hey, what's?"
Well, there's
We're
a
just
whole
here to
school
help.
of thought about us having a populated Earth prior to the Great Flood. There's not a
Mhm.
single religion I can think of that doesn't acknowledge there was a Great Flood here on the Earth where everything was swallowed whole by water. And
Mhm.
if there was aliens, which there's some people that believe in Atlantis, that was
Yeah.
probably the center. You can find that in the Eye of Africa and some other places structurally as being a potential place that might have existed. Where this great flood happened, they fled, right? They fled the earth. They went somewhere else, and space travel takes a long time. The closest inhabitable planet that's very similar to ours is in a long way away. So there's a
Yeah.
good chance maybe they're coming back. And
Could
then to
be.
your thought that you shared earlier about like reptilians, that's a whole nother school of thought
Yeah.
that exists
Oh yeah.
online where people believe that reptilians exist right now, like in our powers that be.
Mhm.
They're looking like humans, acting like humans, but they're actually reptilians. I mean, like you can go down so many pathways with these theories. I mean,
Absolutely.
there's so many. Some are a little less reasonable than others, but the concept of us potentially, having some sort of human and beings, aliens, whatever you want to call them, that were here prior to the Great Flood and are making a return is not unfathomable. I mean, look at structures like in Turkey. There is an underground dwelling that is big enough to accommodate 20,000 people. And we can't carbon date anything that was in there because it's all stone and rock and all of that. But it's nobody of modern times has any idea what it was used for or even how it was made because it's so old. None of the modern populations above ground knew about it. It was literally found on accident, and it's so deep down under the ground. It just goes and goes and goes and goes. And again, it can house 20,000 people.
Wait,
so
where is this?
So if you Google or just use ChatGPT, so Turkey 20, I'll tell you the name of it. It's a complicated name.
Okay.
20,000 people underground. I'll tell you the name. Sorry, I couldn't remember off the top of my head.
That is interesting, man.
Yeah, so
Can't
it's
believe I haven't heard of
Darren Kuyu. Darren, I'm probably saying this wrong. So anybody listening at home, I'm sorry, I'm saying it wrong. But Darren Kuyu, it's an ancient underground city in Turkey that could house up to 20,000 people. It's located in Cappadocia, central Turkey, multi-level underground city, at least 18 stories deep. And again, they didn't know about this, so the exact origins are unknown. But the theories include like carved by the Phrygians around this 8th to 7th century BCE. Maybe expanded later by Romans fleeing Christians during the Roman persecution. I mean, we just don't know. That's the thing. And it was literally found randomly. And so where I'm going with this, why I bring this up, is we have these places around the world that exist, cave structures, underground tunnels, you name it, where there's definitely ability for people to hide out and for people to go. But also, where was the technology to make this, right? So this is like further back than, when we just had like chisels and hammers, like the archaeologists like to tell us. How did they make these underground cities? Like, there's just no way, right? There's just no way.
That is so fascinating. Holy shit.
So then, we start tapping into other places around the world, like in the oceans. As we know, the oceans are largely untapped. I think it's literally like 3% of the oceans.
3 to 5%. Yes, absolutely right.
A lot of the government powers that be that are speaking openly now on alien technology and potential locations are saying that they live in the oceans and they come and go from the oceans. And there's these structures under the oceans. You can actually see on Google Maps sometimes like some areas that you're like, what is that underground? And so, I'm just always fascinated about, we have this whole planet, only 3% of the oceans. And by the way, on the other side of the world, on the other side of the map, there's all this ocean territory that hasn't been explored, that we're not hanging out around or going into underground or under the ocean to go explore. And so it's completely plausible that, they're living here now among us right at this very moment, and they have modern technology. We're already starting to develop it ourselves now. And so aliens are much, much, much more advanced than we are. In terms of being able to do things like holographs, whatever, when their speed is faster, they're flying, etc. They're able to mask where they are and what they look like. So it's not a reach or a stretch to think they might just be here right now, but living in places around the world that we just haven't explored.
Yeah. Alien bases under the oceans for sure. I mean, I've seen a lot of videos where they're just exploding out of the ocean, just coming out, and it's just amazing. You think about, like, for example, you think about all these missing people that you never see again, right? There's too many of them. Where do they go? What if they're abducting people and they're taking them down there? Or a lot of people think that the moon is like an alien base. Basically, it does seem to be a hollow thing. It doesn't spin. Right, we can't see what's on the other side. It could be, maybe it's a base where now I did post a video just the other day. It's so crazy that we're talking about all this stuff. A guy came out and said that he actually was on the moon. He was one of the super soldiers, I guess, to an extent. But he said that there's a base on the moon and we rent it out, so it's not ours. But in order for us to rent it out, we have to provide $25,000 100,000 soldiers.
You know what's so fascinating is they're along this same vein of the moon. The other side of the moon is the side that obviously we can't see from the Earth. There's a lot of conversation on the dark web, et cetera, that's where they are, is they are stationed on the other side of the moon. But then also places like Antarctica, you know, the North Pole, North and South Pole, et cetera. These untapped areas that they're actually used as bases for aliens to land and to be. But we have this is a fact. This isn't even a question at this point. This is 100% fact, what I'm about to say. You can look it up. Bob Lazar, 30 something years ago, said we have bases that exist around the world, but specifically here in the United States, with alien craft, alien technology that's powered by our minds. So there's no wiring. It's not like gasoline. There's a special fuel in one or two of them that are not a element that's on our periodical table of elements.
It is now element 115. Before he came out with 115, element 115. This is how they power their stuff. Now we have it on the periodic table. It exists now.
Wow.
And so he's the one who, it didn't at the time, right? So that is so fascinating. This guy, he's a hero of mine. This guy coming out, risking his life, because at the time they were just eliminating people that were talking.
Yeah.
Right. They don't do that anymore. I think they decided that's not effective.
Well, they also their plot has been blown. I mean, people know now that when someone's saying something and like risking it all to say it, there's probably a good chance that they're telling the truth. And so you can't just smear campaign people anymore. It doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, absolutely true. Yeah. And Bob, not only did he talk about, he was a part of re-engineering these crafts. That's one of the things he was hired for. But he really believed early on, when he saw these things, he would go in and see one, and he thought, wow, we're really developing some new stuff. This is great. This is like, he thought it was ours, and then realized it's not.
It's not. Yeah, they're powered by the mind, and they were trying to reverse engineer the craft and realize like just how complicated that was. I mean, this was before telepathy, et cetera, was acknowledged. But now, you know, this is another thing about like not just alien technology, but the unseen that I like to talk about is like these skills that we have as humans that we've forgotten, that we've been, you know, trained out of over the years, about like things like telepathy. And so in the case of aliens and this particular craft, that is, again, it's been verified now by the government. They've had to release and acknowledge that yes, we do have these craft. And yes, you know, some of this stuff is true and real, that, you know, they're powered by telepathy. So like mind control, craft control using just your mind, like the technology is insane that's coming out.
Yeah. So I wonder, you know, because the aliens can use this technology. They have it down. Could any one of us do it? I don't know. Maybe is that one reason why they're trying to create hybrids, so they can, maybe it's not them that's doing it. Maybe it's us that are trying to create hybrids to see if we can power these crafts, you know, because now they say there's a lot of crafts that we were able to re-engineer that are being used now, and that are like the Tic Tac UFO. They're saying that we developed that. That's one of ours.
You know, it wouldn't shock me. So there's a few things in there. So one, there's claims that we have alien biologics, so essentially alien bodies that were downed in craft, and that we've recovered those. And of course, we can take DNA samples, and of course, we can create. We know how to clone. We know how to do all of those things. So it's not a stretch to imagine that we're making aliens, or whatever you want to call them, to potentially fly these things, you know, raise them, whatever. But then the other thing I'll say too, like even if you look at some of the most famous stories in history about alien communication and interaction, like there's a story in the 90s where a craft had landed, I think this was in Africa, a huge schoolyard full of children, and they separated all the children out, you know, much like you do if you get in a fight on the school grounds, and they take you apart, and you get they separate you and have you tell your version of the story. Well, they did this with all the kids. There's like 40 something kids on the playground, and all the kids said exactly the same story. They drew exactly the same picture. Like they couldn't have been lying. But one fact that is the reason I'm bringing this story up is that the children said that these aliens spoke to them, not verbally, but through telepathy.
Telepathic,
And
yeah.
they heard what they were saying. They were communicating just with their thoughts. And we've also seen that. I don't know if you've heard of an amazing podcast series called the Telepathy Tapes, but you want to go down the rabbit hole?
I
Go
do.
listen to the Telepathy Tapes.
Okay.
Start at episode 1, season 1. It's chronological, so go in order. But this fabulous woman, there's a reason I'm bringing this up. This fabulous woman who's doing research on telepathy. This isn't like made up stuff. These are legitimate stories from our children today, nonverbal autistic children. And I think the show has actually grown and spiraled into other categories because she's
Interesting.
discovering so much. But nonverbal autistic children are telepathically communicating and reading their parents, their caregivers, their teachers. And she's proving it. The woman that has this show, I think her name's Kai Dickens, if I'm not mistaken. And so anyway, go listen to the telepathy tapes because this all, by the way, all of these things are tied together. So aliens, telepathy, the unseen, right? God, like all of this stuff is tied together. The world and life as we know it is the matrix is so much more complex than we can even begin to understand. And so that is why I say I don't have the answers. I don't know what's true and what's not true, but I'm sure starting to ask a lot of questions. I'm sure starting to tune in to what's going on because there's a lot of stuff happening that doesn't make sense. And it's completely against what religion has told us, what society has told us, what the powers that be in politics have told us, right? Because we're trapped right now into this particular way of living and being, benefiting government's control, power, population control, etc. But when you start asking these questions and you're starting to uncover the truth and true history and that we are so much cooler than we give ourselves credit for, through these powers like telepathy, like what else is there, right? The government has all these programs like what's it called when you're seeing another
remote viewing.
We know
remote
that's
viewing.
real.
Yeah.
They have whole government programs for remote viewing, right? There's all of these alternate modalities of communication, existing, seeing, being, right? That have been reserved for special secret government projects and stuff. So anyway, all that to say is we're just scratching the surface and we're finally at a place in time where we can actually talk about this stuff without being burned at the stake.
Yeah, exactly. And I used to not believe in this stuff. I would discount it right away when I was younger. And when I started doing Down the Rabbit Hole, I met a lot of people who tried to approach me and say, hey, I can read your mind. I can tell you your future, all this stuff. And, usually it was wrong. And I met this other person who's a really good friend of mine now. We're really close. And she did something I didn't think was possible. I can't believe it. I know I've said this before, but it freaks me out every time I say it. She has the ability to leave her body.
Oh yeah. What is it? It's astral projection? Is that right?
Astral projection, correct.
Is that it? I'm just
yes. So she did it, and I was like, I didn't believe what she was telling me, and she didn't tell me she was doing that. She says, I'm gonna do a check-in. I'll be right there. Make sure that you're not driving. Make sure you're not walking. Have both feet on the ground. Be grounded. And I'll be there in a minute. And I was like, whatever, lady, go ahead. See you in a minute or whatever. And I started to feel this vibration on my body.
Stop it. I would freak out.
It was like, I had already forgotten about her. I was talking to my girlfriend. We were just having a great conversation. We weren't even in San Antonio. We were in Virginia. So I just forgot about her completely. And I was like talking to my girlfriend and we're at my stepson's home. And we're having a good old time. And then all of a sudden I started to vibrate. Like my whole body started to slowly vibrate. And then it got more intense to the point where I thought I was having a heart attack. It was so weird. Like I felt like I was like doing this, so crazy. And then it started to slowly go away, slowly. And then I got a text from her saying, okay, I'm done. And here are 5 things. And she was right about every single one of them.
It's wild.
And I was so blown away by this, but I didn't talk to her after that. I was like, what? I need to disprove this. I was trying to disprove it and I couldn't. So I finally asked her, what did you do? And she says, what I did is I left my body. I astral projected out of my body. I found you. And then I passed into your aura and I took a look around and I just wrote down what I saw. And then that's why you felt all that vibration is me passing through your aura. It's like, what the hell, man? Are you serious? That's real? She goes, yeah, you can do it. And I actually have. I've done it when I was in my 20s by accident. I actually have done it. And I was trying to meditate. I was trying to learn how to meditate, and I kept trying, failing. And then one day I suddenly was floating upward, looking down at the top of my head. And I thought, wait a minute, that's me. I had never seen myself from that position. So it was bizarre.
Wow.
But I was like, that's me. And in that instant, I realized that there were two different things, my body and my soul or spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, and my spirit was thinking, it wasn't me that was doing any thinking. I was just sitting there. My spirit said, I'm getting the fuck out of here. I hate your problems. And I'm gone. And it was trying to go away. But then the very next second, I was back.
Wow.
I was like, what happened? I didn't know what that was until I met this woman and understood that I actually did it once.
Wow.
I could never get back to it, but
I'll tell you, there's I don't know a lot yet. I'm working. These are topics that I'm starting to pay more attention to. Astral projection, dreams, and how dreams are a whole different plane of existence, different dimension. Yeah. There's so many schools of thought around what dreams are. But what's really interesting is I've had a few experiences now with dreams, not quite like yours, where you're like seeing yourself as separate, but similar. Mm-hmm. And it's when you're in theta state. So in terms of like brain waves, brain activity, how you can access a lot of these kind of like unseen spaces, it's when you're in theta. Well, the best time to be in theta state is when you are in that twilight sleep, where you're kind of sleeping, you're extremely relaxed, which is why meditation is so important. So you can access that through meditation even. But I have these experiences where, I mean, my whole life I've just been kind of like, oh, I'm dreaming, whatever. And then I went through my psychedelic experience a couple of years ago, my initial one. And that's a longer story, but I was having this one particular dream where I had the awareness that I was in a dream. And I was like, I want to ask this guy, like, who are you? Like, what are you doing here? And I had this interaction with this guy in my dream where I was like, why are you here? Who are you? And he lit up like, oh my God, you finally figured it out. You recognized me. Shit. Yeah. And so we had a whole conversation, but it was like, it's the wildest experience. And so I've had that similar experience a couple of times now, where now that I know that you can actually interact with people in the dreams and like, not just like play the story or play the character, you can actually interact with them. That's been a whole other area of experimentation I've gone down, where I'm like, what is happening? There's so much more to life than we can even imagine. And I can't emphasize enough, go listen to the telepathy tapes, because that will blow your mind, because it's not just about telepathy, it's about the unseen.
That is awesome. Yeah, I definitely want to check that out. Who was the guy you were talking to in the dream?
So I don't know who he was, and I cannot for the life of me remember his name, but he was a messenger, and he had a message for me. Man. Yeah. And so that was a whole interesting thing. I mean, I would really be going down the rabbit hole to tell you the story, but yeah, it
seems like there are people, when you're taking psychedelics or you're in a dream, when you recognize them or you see them, you're like, okay, they start to talk to you in a way that's like, finally, I've heard about this. Now, I've never personally experienced it, but I watch so many videos, because I do this every single day, Saturday and Sunday. It never stops. And so I've seen a lot of videos where people are like talking about this. They get to a place, they talk to this person, and that person says exactly what that guy told you. Finally, you're getting it. Finally, you're seeing, or you're remembering, or whatever it is. And I find that so dreams are my jam. I am so fascinated by dreams. I cannot get enough of it. We can have a whole other episode just on dreams, man, because I love them so much.
I got some wild dreams.
Do you really? One of my questions is, what is the weirdest dream you've ever had? So we'll save one for that end.
Okay.
But definitely, there's a theory that when you do dream, that, because I believe in multiple realities and that kind of thing. So there's a theory that when you dream, you're actually visiting a different reality where you're still alive, and it's always a different whatever. Something's different about it, right? And I remember having this dream where I was married to a woman I know, who was a very good friend of mine in high school, and we've been friends ever since. But never have I even considered dating her. Why was I married to her now? And it wasn't a good relationship. It wasn't a good, I remember that. It wasn't great. But I was like, what? How? So then it makes me think, is that a thing where you're actually looking at an alternate reality in your dream?
That is like a big topic also that buzzes around online, that there's belief systems that are structured around in terms of like past lives, multiple lives, whatever, soul contracts, right? Where we have soul contracts about coming to this dimension at this time in this space. The people that we are having as family and friends now, we could have had entirely different relationships with as in our previous lives that are just also in this life now, because we have these soul contracts with them. That's a whole school of thought. Again, I'm not saying this is real or true. I'm just explaining that there's these schools of thought around soul contracts. So very well, there may have been a previous life or a previous time where that was the relationship that you had with that individual at the time. So it's not uncommon or unlikely.
Right. Yeah. And I think, like, you know, I do kind of believe in the soul contract thing. As a matter of fact, that whole thing, you know, you've heard of the source, right? The source.
The source is in like God or whatever.
The source being like one of the theories from Michael Newton is that all of us are God. We're all a piece of the divine.
I agree with that.
Every piece of soul is a divine. So like, it's like if you are born, think of it as like a drop of water in the ocean, right? There's a splash and then a drop goes away from the ocean. That's you. You're a piece of the divine. And then when you die, you rejoin the ocean. So that I like that. I like that. I
love that theory. I think
makes more sense. Yeah, I'm really into that. And so that just, to me, I like to think that everyone is connected that way. So another good thing about that theory to me is that I treat everyone the way I would want to be treated, because I think we're all the same thing. We're all, if you and I are a part of the same thing, why would I want to treat you any different? You know, I want to treat you exactly the way I would want to be treated. And I think, to me, that makes me very nice to everybody. I'm nice to everybody. I'm very understanding. I know people are going through all sorts of shit in their life that they don't share or whatever. And I try to be, you know, understanding to that. And that theory helps me be more like that, because when I was a younger girl, I was crazy. I was insane. I was not nice. I was a mean person when I was younger. I'm totally different now. And I think it's because I'm not in that religion anymore. But anyway.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting that concept of consciousness that you just brought up. There's a lot of different schools of thought around that as well, in terms of like what consciousness is, what happens to us after death. And again, in the telepathy tapes, which does such a fabulous job explaining some of these concepts, you have to. I mean,
I'm going to start right after we get off.
It's so good. You're going to binge listen to it. I fully expect a text from you after, and then we'll do we should do like a telepathy tapes, like recap episode on this. But where I'm going with this is consciousness. So there's people that will communicate, mediums, etc., right? Where they're communicating from the other side for our loved ones or whatever, where they're saying like, we're actually more with you than we were when we were in our physical form. And there's this thought about consciousness, like the unseen, the other side, right? There's so many routes you could go with that. But just like you said, energy cannot be destroyed. It can only be transferred, right? So in terms of when we pass over to the other side, there's this thought that we go back into the collective, which is like all consciousness all at once, all around us. And so when there's a whole school of thought of when we're breathing in consciousness, which is why when we can't breathe, we lose consciousness. And that consciousness is around us all of the time. And that we go into just kind of like this to your point, this ocean, if you will. That's a great analogy for it, where we're a drop away from the ocean, but we're all connected. So psychedelics, by the way, do an amazing job when you're sitting with things like psilocybin, etc. It puts you into that state of unified consciousness, where it shows you like we are all one, we're all from God, we are all God, like we're all part of it. People got killed for that belief after having a psychedelic experience. There's a bishop in Germany from the 1400s that sat with psilocybin that had this acknowledgement, this realization that we're all from source, we're all from God. we're all a piece of God. We're all one. There's no division. There's no separation. And him saying that got him murdered for, being against this religion, going back to what we were talking about earlier, these segregated things, which is why religions don't want people to have this belief that they are God or part of God or whatever, because of the control aspect and what that would do to religions. It's just so fascinating. But that's exactly why these conversations are so important, and why we're in such a cool time that we can have these conversations, and just to question and just to think about and ideate what else is there, and what exists, what was historical before religions came around and destroyed our ability to have these free thinking conversations. So the only other thing I'll add on to that is, have you heard about the golden age concept?
No.
So
enlighten me.
The golden age concept is right now. And if you talk to anybody in the spiritual space and you ask them what time we're in right now, they'll say the golden age, which is the mass awakening of the population. So again, everything is so interestingly timed right now with the alien conversations, what's going on politically, what's happening in the psychedelic space. We're having a psychedelic revolution, which all of these things are fitting perfectly together, where people are being mass awakened to these ideas that we're talking about like having our abilities with our intuition being heightened, our telepathic abilities, our ability to, project astrally, and our own body powers, but then the awareness of religion just being an absolute scam, and to control us and all of these other things. So if you Google like the golden age, there's all of these explanations of what's happening spiritually, astrologically. All of these things are happening. There's so many incredible things. Even things that you wouldn't expect timeline wise are happening right now, where 525 years ago, as one example, the Huayraca people in Mexico fled from their valleys up into the mountains in the high Sierras to escape like the Spanish
the invasion. Yeah.
And I just recently was down in Mexico, and I talked with one of the Huayraca leaders, and it's 525 years. Astrologically and prophetically, now's the time that they're coming down the mountain. Well, why are they coming down the mountain now? So there's all of these things happening all at once around the world, seen and unseen, for amazing. The golden age. Yeah. So there's a lot happening around the world around this golden age idea, where the end result of what is the golden age ultimately, it's the mass awakening of the planet to reduce crime, politics, religion, and to get us kind of into this unified state, which is why it's a little worrisome and cumbersome with the Project Bluebeam stuff, because that would be the hope, right? We would want a group of us all being united and connected and loving one another, but it's hard to see us getting there anytime soon. But allegedly, according to prophecy and all of that, it's now. That's what's happening right now.
Oh, that's awesome. I did not know that. That's great. I feel like Project Bluebeam would be a method of control to keep us from reaching that like fully, to get to like what is beyond the golden age, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like something like that would be meant to keep us down. And I hope that's wrong. But I also saw on your page that you're a licensed psilocybin. Is it a distributor or what is it? What do you do with that?
Yeah, a licensed psilocybin facilitator. So
okay.
There's only a couple states in the United States that authorize that legally. I'm in Oregon, so Oregon is able to. They have licensed psilocybin facilitators. So I'm accredited and licensed by the state. So
That's
what I do is I work mostly with military veterans and first responders, but everybody and anybody is welcome. And what I do is an 11-week program for most people. I have two options available, but the 11 weeks my primary program, where for 4 weeks prior to working with a psilocybin journey, we'll work together on a Zoom call once a week, doing preparation to get you in the right mindset, the right body space, kind of come in as a clean slate. So that's like, removing things from your diet, like caffeine, alcohol, any street drugs, pharmaceuticals, things like that you might be on. You have a psilocybin journey with me. It's like a 6 to 8 hour journey together. And we do that at a licensed service center here. So it's a beautiful environment. It's very ceremonial style. And I call it the shedding of the old skin. And then for the next 6 weeks beyond that, we work together once a week on a Zoom call, doing the integration side of things where the real work happens, where you're changing your life's patterns, your routines, your behaviors, you're being more mindful of your choices, what you're consuming, all of that. And we're moving into a really, really healthy state of mind and being. So that the process itself, psilocybin right now is under study with the VA and a lot of different organizations like University of Texas at Austin, Johns Hopkins. There's a lot of organizations studying psilocybin and other psychedelics like MDMA, ibogaine, etc. And you can sit with these things once or twice. Mostly people just need one time, and you can be completely relieved of a lot of the symptoms of depression, anxiety, PTSD, and a whole host of other things. And I, hand on the ethereal Bible, because I don't know what I believe about religion, but I can tell you, like, even from my own experience, just sitting with it one time basically saved my life. It stopped me from being suicidal. So not only from personal experience, but from witnessing now hundreds of people that I've worked with, this is really a powerful alternate modality to healing serious mental health issues. If you're not someone that has found relief using traditional things like SSRIs, SNRIs, talk therapy, if that's not working for you, my encouragement would be maybe come sit for a session with psilocybin and see what happens.
There's so many veterans that are suffering out there, and the suicide rates are just out of control.
Yeah.
And this is working, right? Because I saw the last episode you had on your show, and the woman you were speaking with. I'm sorry, I'm terrible with names. Like, no, that's okay. My memory is like, but
was
she
it
was
the
saying
attorney, Victoria?
Yeah, I think it was Victoria. She said
Okay,
it saved her life. It saved her life.
Yeah, there's thousands of these stories. I mean, thousands and thousands of these stories. It saved mine too. And I didn't even work with Victoria, so it's not like she was a paid sponsor. This was her own separate experience doing anything with me. I just had her on the show. But yes, that's the story. So a lot of times people turn to things like psychedelics because they're like doing a last ditch effort before they off themselves, where they've tried everything. My personal story is like the most powerful testimony for it. I was in the VA system for over 10 years. So I tried all the SSRIs. I was on sleep medications, talk therapy, group therapy. I tried everything. Nothing worked. And I was still suicidal, still depressed, still had anxiety, massive anger issues, could not function in society without blowing up. And I was hopeless. Yeah, nothing was working. And so it wasn't until I was like at death's door, literally, where I randomly stroke of God. This is where I believe firmly in God, divine intervention here. They put in my path psychedelics, and somebody was like, you need to go to a retreat. We work with veterans. We're going to pay for you to go. And 2 weeks after I met them, I was at a fully funded retreat, and I worked with MDMA, psilocybin, and bufo, which is 5-MeO-DMT. It's a frog poison. And after that week of working with them, I was like, I'm a completely different woman, and I have never been the same. And it's been 2 years now. And so that's how I ended up going down the path of working and learning in psych. It's what I do mostly full time now because it was so effective for me. I'm like, I have to turn around now, educate people, help be a lamp or a lighthouse to them to help find this, because it's so underground still. It's Schedule 1 all around the world, all around the United States. So it's really hard to access these things legally and safely. And so that's why I'm in Oregon. I came here to get licensed as a psilocybin facilitator, and I do this professionally now. Very low cost. Also, these are cheaper than the years of therapy that you've been in. It's cheaper than the pharmaceuticals and all of that. So I try to do it as low cost or free as possible. So I have a nonprofit that now, we get funding for people to come access it if they can't afford it.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Yeah.
And I would never be able to tell that you were the person that you're describing, because you are so delightful. And let me tell you, you're just so full of information. I love this. This is so amazing. And I think what you're doing, do you have a lot of like clients? Do you have people coming to you a lot?
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
don't do this full time. So I do
Okay.
have like a little bit of a corporate world thing besides doing this for now.
Mhm.
But I take on about 8 clients a month. So you know, I usually will do weekends. Most people have like a Monday through Friday type of thing. So this is truly something where you need to unplug for 2 days if you're working with the medicine. So I try to do that Saturdays and Sundays. So I do groups if people want to, you know, do it in a group or whatever, great. Or individually one-on-one. Yeah.
And so what I'm saying, I think you're saving lives. Honestly, I think you're actually saving lives. This is something I think the military needs to wake up to. It works, and
Yeah,
we're
you're
losing too
coming
many
around.
people.
We
Yeah.
are losing
Okay.
too many people. Yeah, thank
Good.
God for people like JFK
Yeah.
Jr. Sorry, wow, JFK. Like RFK Jr.
Yeah.
And thank goodness for our current administration because they're actually pushing the agenda through. There's
Good.
also states that you would never expect. So Texas just authorized a $50 million ibogaine study.
Oh my
So
God.
there's organizations that exist like VETS, VETS, Mission Within. There's Heroic Hearts. There's the Hope Projects. These are just a
Nice.
few organizations that exist that are currently funding, holding retreats, and advocating for legalization efforts around the world, not just around the country, but around the world. So there's a lot happening underground. This is exactly why I do what I do above ground. It's so I can continue to educate people and funnel them towards these resources. Because the more that like we're not just healing one, and by the way, we aren't healing anybody. God and the mushrooms and the individuals are healing themselves. These tools are just helping people realize how to heal themselves and how to get back in control of themselves.
But
And
you're an instrument in this. You're an instrument in this
I'm
by
just a
helping.
lighthouse. I'm just a
Yeah.
lighthouse on the information. That's it.
But a great lighthouse. You're
Thank
doing a
you.
fantastic job,
Thank
man.
you.
You are saving lives. I love
Thank you.
this.
And so the more that we help, even just one person, imagine the trickle down effect, right? So you
Yeah.
help a male veteran that's messed up from the war with these tools and these modalities. He's now going to be a better father, a better husband, right? That's going to impact his community. And you
Yeah.
do that at scale. Like it's not just individuals, it's families, right? And
Yeah.
that's, by the way, I'm sorry, I'll be the anti-pharmaceutical person. The SSNRIs, SSRIs and SNRIs and talk therapy, it's just not cutting it. It's not working
Mhm.
for millions of people. Are not
Right.
finding relief. It definitely didn't help me. And so these are things that are actually showing actual impact, actual breakthrough, actual transformation for people. And so I could not champion them enough.
Why is it working? Why do you
So
think it's working?
yeah, a great question. And what my personal experience is in relation to that question is SSRIs and SSNRIs. I can't talk anymore. Pharmaceuticals. I'll just summarize it to pharmaceuticals are
Yeah.
masks. They don't get to the core problem. We know this. There's a great book called The Body Keeps a Score, where like we've been treating PTSD and things completely the wrong way. We've been looking at
Right.
it as like maybe they store in the brain. We think we're not sure. So we'll just throw you on some chemical medications and hope that makes an impact. And it
Yeah.
might temporarily, but none of them are actually getting to the root core of the issues. Now,
Yeah,
a
the
lot of
symptom. That's all medicine, I think. It just treats the symptom. It's
just
not trying to
treats the
cure
symptom.
anything.
It's
Yeah.
not trying to cure anything. And so
Right.
a lot, like especially military veterans and first responders, if you actually look at the profile of the type of person that joins these organizations, often they come from broken homes, poor childhoods, right? Where they're carrying these horrible traumas where they've ended up developing these personalities that want to be the hero or be saved or want some kind of like routine
Right.
or whatever because their childhoods were so terrible. And by the way, I'm not masking everybody or saying everybody, labeling everybody as having childhood trauma because that's not true. But
Yeah.
for a large part of the organizations, that is true. And anyway, so in those particular circumstances, as an example, they'll when you sit with things like psilocybin or any of the psychedelics, it's not just like, hey, you're sad, you're depressed, take this medication. It's going to make your brain think that you're neutral. It's actually going to give you a reverse we're going down the rabbit hole of why you're in this position to begin with. So as an example, I carried a lot of mother wound trauma where I had a terrible relationship with my mom growing up. I had a terrible childhood with my mother. And so when I sat with psilocybin, one of the first messages I got from it was this visual experience where I saw my mother, and it was almost like I was sitting right. It was like I was wearing VR virtual reality goggles.
Yeah.
And
Cool.
I had eye mask on in reality, but not VR. And it was like, I saw my mother. She wasn't there, but she was there in my vision. And her face was swapping out with my face. And it kept doing this, where every time I'd look at her, it would be her face, then my face, her face, then my face. And this doesn't make any sense. And you can't make some of these things make sense. But what was happening in my mind was, without any conversation, without any words, it was my wound around my mother was softening, and it was telling me, I am my mother and my mother is me. We are the same. We are not different. And what that did for my deep mother wound was give my mother grace. And it helped me be my mother in terms of, like, she was a young mom. She was in her 20s. She had no idea what she was doing. She didn't have a great childhood herself. And these were all things that, even though I kind of knew that about my mom, I never gave her grace around them. And so I hated my mom, and I was angry with my mom, and I carried that chip on my shoulder my whole life. And so within that journey, that psilocybin journey I was in, it melted the issues. It melted the trauma, where it doesn't matter anymore. So even now, 2 whole years later, I'm not angry at my mom anymore. I'm not mad at my mom anymore. I'm good with my mom. So now whatever was triggering me before about my mother, it doesn't trigger me anymore.
That's wonderful.
These are like actual resolution to the traumas and the dramas that you experience. And so and I will say, excuse me, it's not for everybody. You need to follow safety and medical screening protocols. And it's not a magic pill. So it's not to say I came out of my, 6, 7, 8 hour medicine journey and bam, my whole life was saved. No, it's a doorway to acknowledging that, you're going to be okay. Things are okay. You're all right. Now that you've had all these realizations and insights, you need to fix your life. So for a lot of people, these journeys are a doorway to understanding their own power and their own contributions to the circumstances that they're in. So as an example, the work that we do, the program element of it, the prep and integration work, it's really interesting, because when I start working with people and we're setting the stage for them to come to do a journey, we're doing an inventory of their life. And I like this is a really good way to phrase this. So just like in the medicine industry, where they're like, oh, you have cancer, we're going to treat cancer. Okay. We're going to approach cancer. We're going to do this. We're going to give it radiation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The work that this does is preparation to where you never even get cancer. Right. So we just don't focus on enough as a medicine society in Western medical space about preventing cancer. And so what this work does, the preparation work before you come to a journey, is like, before you even consume a psychedelic, let's take a look at how you're spending your day. So we do an inventory. What music are you listening to? Is it rageful, hateful? What podcasts? Murder mysteries? What TV shows? Gossip shows, drama shows? You're listening to The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills cat fights all the time, and you're wondering why you have anxiety. You're living in LA, you're in LA traffic, and you're spending 3 hours in commute every single day, people honking at you, and you're almost dying every single day in LA traffic. You're drinking 12 cups of coffee a day, and you have all that caffeine. You're wondering why you have anxiety. You're going out on the weekends, every single weekend, drinking a ton of alcohol and doing cocaine, and you wonder why you have anxiety, right? So like, when you do an inventory, and I hope someone's listening to this and thinking, fuck, that's me, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the point. It's like, stop masking yourself with SSRIs and going to talk therapy when to treat the issues, when you're giving yourself these problems to begin with by how you're living your life, by what you're consuming.
Holy shit.
So, and it's everything. You have to do a full inventory and take ownership and stop being a victim, and, take a look at what you're consuming. What are you willingly putting into your body? What are you willingly doing in terms of your time? What are your eyeballs looking at? You're doom scrolling on Instagram all day long, and you wonder why you're depressed. Right? Like it's an inventory. So when you do an inventory and you know about it, now you can do something about it. So once you've done that hard look in the mirror, then come sit with the medicine. The medicine kind of like the psilocybin or some of the other psychedelics that are out there kind of like melts away a lot of that historical trauma. This is a big brain reset. And then when you're out of it and you're going into the integration side of things, it's like, okay, let's create, when you're in that neuroplastic window, some new routines. How about we do a little breath work in the mornings? How about we do a little meditation exercise? Maybe let's do a vision board. What do you even want to do? What's your North Star? Where do you want to go? Right?
Yeah.
Let's maybe try some different, healthier foods. So there's a whole reset of your life. And I have not yet met a single person that's gone through these types of programs that exist. I'm not the only person. There's a lot of programs. There's a lot of nonprofits out there that do this work where they don't come away a better person, where they're 2.0 versions of themselves. And they've been able to shed that skin and take ownership of like, shit, I was giving myself anxiety.
That's awesome. And when you were talking about how you got through the whole thing, is your relationship with your mom good now? Y'all have a good relationship?
So I will say, I'm
challenging.
I'm good with my mom. I have no animosity towards her anymore, which is amazing.
That's wonderful.
It's not where I would like it to be, but what's really important to acknowledge about that is relationships are two people, right? It's two sides. And I think it would be unrealistic for you to say, or for anyone to say, for me to say, to go work with psilocybin or psychedelics in general and expect your relationships to get better, period. You can do your work and you can work on yourself, but to expect anybody else to be willing to do the work also is a tall order. And so I just continue to work on myself. And, if my mother comes around at some point, great. And if not, that's okay too.
Maybe she needs a little, but
she's willing. Yeah, she's willing.
Yeah, that's great.
She might do it. Yeah, it's just time.
Well, let me just say this, because at first I was like, okay, this sounds like a cheat code, man. But you explained it perfectly. There's work. You have to do the work. It's not just, So that's wonderful how you explained it. Thank you so much for that. I find it so fascinating, this whole thing. And I'm glad we're finally, I just posted something today that says a single dose of LSD significantly reduces anxiety for months, according to new clinical trials. So science is just now catching up to something the ancients already knew.
They already knew.
They already knew this.
It's true.
They were already doing this back then, with all this other psychedelics that they were taking. Medicine men were doing this. Our ancestors, my ancestors, I'm half Apache. They were already working on this stuff. And science is just now catching up. So
I just had a peyote session. I did my first Temazcal and my first peyote session down in Mexico. So I'm very respectful and mindful of indigenous culture and indigenous ways. And I honor the lineage carriers and the medicine carriers and the knowledge carriers that have protected these things, because colonization totally tried to wipe a lot of this stuff out to protect religions and control the population and all that. Because when you work with psychedelics, you realize that you truly are part of a much larger, broader system, which is source. And so, yes, that's why I'm, by the way, very open about the conversations around aliens and other topics that we talk about, because I've worked so much with psychedelics and have seen the other side and seen some of the realms that you go to. And there's just no way your brain can make some of this stuff up. So they're really powerful things. But I do also just want to emphasize a couple of disclaimers, don't try these things at home by yourself. Get a practitioner that really knows what they're doing, and please get medically screened first, because they're not for everybody. There's medications, there's health conditions, heart conditions, et cetera, that can interact. And so just for safety, if you want to experiment with these things, try to find someone that, is licensed or knows what they're doing. But, at a minimum, don't be by yourself, and make sure you get medically screened.
Yeah. All good information. That's all great. How was it? How was in Mexico? What was it like?
Oh, the Temazcal and then the peyote journey.
Yes.
Very hard. I had a preconceived idea because I'd worked with other psychedelics, psilocybin. I had done mushrooms. For those that don't recognize psilocybin as a word, I had done ayahuasca. I had done bufo, 5-MeO DMT, which is a frog poison. I'd worked with quite a few different things. I had worked with acid before, but this was the first time I'd done peyote, and I had this idea that it was going to be extremely visual and kick in right away and all of these things. And I was so surprised that it was a very labor intensive journey of discipline. So the room that I was a very traditional style ceremony. So the room I was in, we were all sitting very close to each other. You had to be still. You had to be very, you couldn't be like lazy or lax or loungy. It was very, you just sit upright, have your wits about you, participate in the ceremony. There's all these different prayers that were being said, things that you had to do. Like I did a red string knot thing that was supposed to release all your old attachments. There's all these things that you have to do in it. Very, very discipline oriented. And it was like 7 cups of peyote over the course of 12 hours. So this session, when done in this particular lineage, working with the Wiarka's way of doing it, you start doing it at sunset, and the ceremony's all night long until sunrise. And so you're doing this for over 12 hours. And the medicine didn't kick in for me until sunrise. And so I was struggling all night long. I was tired. The ceremony was very intense. But it's a very, you have to treat these things with such reverence. Like this is not a recreational sport by any means. And the people that use it recreationally are going to get whipped back. And so this was something that for me was it was a sacred journey for me, deep soul work, very therapeutic, very healing. And I was very fortunate to do it in a setting where I was kind of in like a jungle-like environment. I was a couple hours outside of Mexico City in a very jungle-like territory, Tepoztlan, Mexico, and it was so beautiful. And so I just had like this incredible connection to nature and to Mother Earth, and it was so beautiful when it kicked in. But the journey itself, the 12-hour labor-intensive journey to get there, the next morning was very difficult.
So worth it?
I would say it is worth it in the grand scheme of things. I learned so much and I was so honored to be a part of it. But cool. This is not a medicine I would recommend for people who are new to the space or are at the beginning of healing their mental health issues. That's not where I would start unless you are Native American or part of a culture that does that regularly, and that's what you're used to in your culture. This is not an entry point to working with therapeutic medicines like this or plants. This is definitely something, in my opinion, for more seasoned individuals.
Excellent. That's some good information. Well, Amy, I want to thank you for joining me. You've been a delight to talk to. You're like, we're in the same minds. I think you and I are right here when it comes to aliens and stuff. And I do have this thing I call the 6 questions. Are you ready for the 6 questions?
Let's do it.
All right. This is the 6 questions, Queen Amy style. All right. Number 1. How did you come about doing your podcast? What led you to do this?
Yeah. So my podcast originally was about military transition. So because I was struggling with mental health, I made a podcast to talk to other people that had made it outside of the military. My goal initially was to talk to successful previous military individuals, celebrities, business owners, you name it, that had successfully transitioned and become something very successful for themselves, for their businesses, et cetera, for their families, everything. And it was centered kind of around mental health also. So when you're in the military, as an example here, you have everything provided to you. You've got a paycheck, health insurance, you know where your next meal is coming from. You have a uniform, so you know what you're wearing. You know where you're going to be. You have a schedule, right? Everything's dictated to you. And then you leave the military and that rug is pulled out from underneath you. And so being successful without that safety net is a challenge. And a lot of people lose their sense of purpose and their identity. And so I wanted to have a show that helped people with that transition period. So that's how I started it. And then when I had my own salvation, my own healing work that happened through the use of psychedelics, where I was able to relieve almost permanently my mental health issues, I realized I very quickly needed to pivot to specifically talk about psychedelics and all of the, not just psychedelics, but all of the other modalities that are supportive to healing. So breath work, meditation, mindset work, etc. Because I realized how much this saved my life, and there's no way I could move on with my life like I didn't just experience that and not pass the information to someone else. So I used the little platform that I had to talk about these things, have guests on to talk about them, and keep the awareness more at scale.
Well, I think you're doing a fantastic job. You now have a listener. I'm a new listener.
Thank
I
you.
was just
Likewise.
very impressed. You're really good at it. You're really good at interviewing, asking questions. You let the guest talk is something I need to work on because I interrupt people all the time. But I think, yeah, you're doing great. So just keep
Thank
it up.
you.
Fantastic, man. All right, question number 2. Who is your give me an idol that you like, your one I like. For me, I'm a Ben Franklin dude. I love Ben
Mm.
Franklin. That's one of my things. Who is your idol? Who is your person that you look to that you're like, that's the dude or the lady?
Yeah. I've got a lot of idols, a lot of teachers. So I'll give you someone that's alive right now,
Cool.
that I really am looking up to at the moment. And their name is Katie LaRoe. And Katie LaRoe is a military veteran spouse. She's married to a former Navy SEAL, and she's a therapist. And so even though
Oh, wow.
all that shit I talked earlier about how much I don't love therapists, she's one of the good ones. And
Okay.
she's very, very good at what she does. But besides therapy work, she is a medicine woman, a medicine carrier. So she's a Bwiti
Mm.
initiate. She's studied down in Gabon, Africa, and been initiated by that tribe. She works with Ibogaine and Iboga. She works with a couple of nonprofits around the world, helping military veterans and first responders to find the light and to find, healing for themselves again. And she's got a really beautiful way about moving around the earth and living. She's very integral with nature and has like this incredible spirit of like honoring things and honoring like everyone and everything. And I
Wow.
really look up to her because she's a teacher. She's doing incredible healing work and saving a lot of lives. And she's so knowledgeable and patient and just has a really unique way of spinning things to help them be more digestible for people. So she's one of my teachers at the moment. And I really I struggle to look up to too many people in general for a whole host of reasons that, trust issues, you name it. But she's someone that I'm really like, wow, if I could be like anybody, it'd be like Katie LaRoe.
Wow. We need to look
Yeah.
that person up, guys,
Yeah.
out
She's
there.
amazing. She's amazing.
I love people like that. That's great. All right, the next 4 questions are questions I ask everyone. Everyone who comes on the show, they're the same question. So that way you know that it's not special just for you.
Yeah.
All right. So question number 3, and this is one of my favorite questions. How do you want to die?
Good question. So I've thought about this a lot. Going back to my off myself days. I've
Mhm.
thought about this a lot. I would love to go in my sleep, to be honest.
Yes.
Nice and peaceful. I think that'd be the most beautiful, natural way to go.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of really interesting experiences and journeys in dreams and then in psychedelic journeys where I've been in a car accident,
Mhm.
which has been really weird. I think that's a past life thing coming through. So I hope it's not that way. I would love to
Yeah,
go
really.
pain free. I'd love to go. I have a son who's almost 17, and I just love the idea of being surrounded by my son and my loved ones and going peacefully and old. I want to see my son grow old and have kids and get married and do all of that. So I'd like to go and I'm nice and old and get to witness my son
Okay.
grow
In
up.
your
Yeah,
sleep.
in
Beautiful.
my sleep. Yeah.
Oh, that's a good answer. That's mine. I knew we were like I say. And I asked that there's a second part of this question, but I asked that question because my stepson passed away when he was 21 in his sleep.
Aw.
And yeah, I never got to meet him. Me and his mom got together like 4 years after. But that's to honor you, Connor. Basically, that's for my boy Connor. So the second part of this question is, how do you think you're gonna die?
Hmm. So I've had two things that have happened in dreams. And I'm always so curious about the reality of dreams or if they're, premonitions or whatever. I
Mhm.
had this incredible dream, which we may talk about later at some point, where I was skydiving and in a ring formation with 6 other people, and I didn't land so great, and I ended up passing away. I ended up dying from skydiving, and I do skydive, so that's that's hopefully not going to happen. But I had a dream about it, and then also the car accident. So I really hope that the car accident thing doesn't happen. And the thing that's so frustrating about the car accident thing is I've had this same dream a couple of times now. It's where I'm driving and there's a construction zone and I think I'm good. And then lo and behold, I'm in the wrong place, the wrong lane. And even though I'm surrounded by orange signs, it's just confusing. And I ended up like my car goes off of a ledge. So I've had that dream multiple times. I hope that's not it. I really hope that's not it, but I hope, God lets me pick my way, which is to grow old with my son. So
yeah, that would be wonderful.
Yeah.
I used to have nightmares when I was younger, getting hit by a train.
Oh my gosh. Come
over
on.
and over. Sometimes I was outside my car. Sometimes I was inside my car. Sometimes I was getting out the door and the door gets smashed and cuts me in half. So yeah,
no way. Cuts in half.
Like I get out, like I'm about to get out like in time, but then I was wrong and the door gets slammed into me and I'm half out of the car already. But so anyway.
No
but
way.
Yeah.
No, thank you. I'd like to keep my body parts together.
Yeah. And in your sleep, I think that's how I want to go for sure. I definitely would love to just go to sleep and that's it.
Yeah. If I had some kind of like terminal illness of some kind, I would probably be into going to seek out one of those suicide pods that they have, where it's like dignity assisted dying or whatever, where like if you knew you were terminal, like you had like brain cancer or something where you're losing all your functionality, I would be interested to do like because that's still essentially like you fall asleep essentially. It's very controlled, but then you don't have to like go through the whole process of like pooping yourself and all of the things. Like I don't want to do that. Like I really, really genuinely do not want to be that person. So
pooping yourself.
Nah, absolutely not. No, thank you. If I'm at the point where people are having to wipe my ass, like please let me just go off myself somewhere.
So listen, let me just one last thing about the dying thing. So Michael Newton, the book Journey of Souls, a lot of his patients would talk about the moments where they were in accidents or some sort of form in which they died. And they all said, not all of them, but most of them said right before the accident or right before something traumatic happens to their body, they're removed from it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think that's a great concept. I hope that's true.
Me too, because I don't think I'm gonna die in my sleep. So hopefully they yoink and I'm not in my body.
There's a good saying for this though. This too shall pass. Like nothing is permanent at all. Right. Nothing. There's not a single thing about your body, your cells, your breath. There's not a single thing about your life, nothing that is permanent. And so this too shall pass. So even if I was in some sort of like pain or whatever, I know at some point it would be over and I wouldn't be in suffering anymore. So I guess, give me dealer's choice here, God. But my request is my bed sleeping.
Bed sleeping at an old age, right?
At an old age, I want to see my son get old and wrinkly himself. We're only 20 years apart, so which is
wow.
Yeah, so I really would love the idea of being 90 and seeing him at 70 with his whole family and everything he's.
That would be beautiful.
Yeah, of course, yeah. I mean that's the dream.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
All right, number 4. What is the strangest paranormal experience you've ever had?
This is a good one. So after I had Bufo 5-MeO DMT, this was weeks later. Like I wasn't even under the influence of any street drugs, medications. I was on nothing at the time. Weeks later, I had this experience where I had a visitation from entity, I guess. It's hard to explain. I was sleeping. And again, I went into that state where it was not necessarily dreamlike. And wait, are you going to ask me about my dream later?
Yeah, that's the very next question is what's the weirdest or strangest dream you've had?
This is probably going to be 2 birds with 1 stone here. So
okay,
cool. The audience some listening time. But so I was sleeping and I was playing a racing simulator in my dream. So imagine me sitting at one of those Formula 1 racing simulator machines, playing this video game essentially, right? Driving a car. And I was just in my dream doing this racing simulator, which that's interesting. Who does that? Like playing a racing simulator in your dream?
In a dream.
But simulation, like just consider that. Like I don't play racing sim. I don't do that. Like why would I be doing
Yeah.
that? So even that by itself, it's like, I think reality is a simulation. Anyway, I'm playing a simulator. And I'm driving this Mach 50 crane in this racing simulation. Now, what is a Mach 50 crane? For those of you that don't know, it's a Marine Corps vehicle. I learned how to drive it while I was in Afghanistan in real life in the Army.
Wow.
It's a big rig, huge thing, and it's an actual crane. It's like a construction crane. It's a Marine Corps machine. Anyway, so I'm driving this racing simulator and I'm in a dream. And then all of a sudden my dream was no longer a dream. It was absolutely a vision, and I was absolutely being visited by somebody or something.
Mm-hmm.
This chair, kind of like a therapist's office chair, appeared just out of my peripheral vision here on the right side, and a man was sitting in it, and I didn't see his face initially, but I noticed he was there, and he said, "What are you playing there?" And I was like, who's this guy? I didn't look at him. I was still playing the simulator. And I said, he said, it looks Army. I said, it's a Mach 50 crane. I didn't learn how to drive it when I was in the Army. Let me start over. It was, I said, it's a Mach 50 crane. It's not Army, but I learned how to drive it when I was in the Army. And he said, interesting. Yeah, sounds Army. And he was like, wait, I'm fucking this up. I'm messing the story up. So anyway, once we acknowledged that I was driving this crane, he was like, sounds Army. And all of a sudden I get sucked into this vision, like totally sucked into this vision, like stripped out of the racing simulator and sent into a full-on vision. And it was no longer me dreaming. And this beat starts playing. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, dun,
oh,
dun,
I know that
dun,
song.
Dun,
Yeah.
Well, don't say the name yet, because that's like part of the punchline. So, by the way, I don't listen to that song.
You've never heard it?
No, I have heard it, but I don't listen to it. I didn't even know the name of the song. I didn't know any of the words. The only thing I knew was there's a line that goes, "I'm going to Wichita," right?
Yep.
So I literally, while I'm getting sucked into this vision, I try to turn to say to the guy, "Why is Wichita playing?" Because I thought the song's name was Wichita. That's the only line
Makes sense.
know from the song, right? I'm like, why is Wichita playing? So anyway, I'm flying through this jungle, and it's the earth before the Great Flood. It is covered in luscious greenery. There's jungle everywhere. And I was kind of soaring around it, like looking at the planet like it was before the Great Flood. And then I get sucked out of that. This beat's playing this whole time. No words, just the beat. And then I get sucked into this skydiving ring formation where I died. So I was coming down to earth. There were 7 of us. I hit the ground. I didn't land well. Then I get picked up and clipped onto this really futuristic looking helicopter. And this guy looks at me like they were trying to save my life or something, this futuristic helicopter. This guy that was operating it, or in there, at least assisting, looks at me, and I distinctly remember his face. He had brown hair and really sharp eyes. And he's like, "Amy, breathe. I need you to breathe." And he's like telling me to breathe, and I die. And I wake up and I immediately go to my phone and I Google the name of the song. And the song's name, 7 Nation Army, which was so crazy to me because it was like the song was a message. I don't listen to that song. The fact that my brain did that is so wild. So what I gathered out of that is that I existed before the Great Flood. I was part of the Army, which is why the guy was like, "Sounds Army." And then this 7 Nation Army song was playing. There were 7 of us in the ring formation.
Shit.
And I died. And so like all of these things came out of this thing. Like it was more of just a message of like, you're onto something. You were around before, like you have had a previous life, like you were in the Army. And by the way, in all my lifetimes, that I experienced in 5MEO, I had been in the art, like I had been in battle or war or something like that. Like I was a true like repeat visitor of war. And so that's the craziest like paranormal thing. It was so real. Like I can't even describe it. Like it wasn't just like I was dreaming. It was so real. I've never had a dream that real before, where it was like I was seeing everything, touching everything, feeling the wind, talking to the people. It was just like an actual vision. And it was definitely like given to me by this visitor that showed up in my dream. Like the way it rolled out was just mind blowing. So it's hard to express like the nature of what it felt and it was like to people by just describing it this way, but it was not like a dream. It was so much more real than a dream.
What if that person in that dream was like one of your soul guides or something? Was like,
Yeah, I've thought
Yeah.
about that a lot. Like, who is this person? It was a male that was there, that was like, giving me this kind of remembrance, this thing. And I'm not sure who he is, but he was so, I don't know, like so instrumental to showing me that, and I don't know why, but I have been on this quest of, trying to understand previous lives and who I am and what I'm doing here and, just all
Right.
of these things. And so I thought it was just really interesting. And, I'm still these things you just kind of have to put a big question mark on and just kind of like be
Mhm.
open around them, because what is the meaning? I don't know. Maybe it's nothing. Who knows? But it was just such a strong moment in my life that was
Yeah.
so out of body. It was really hard to explain.
Well, I think to me, it sounds like you're describing a past life. It
Mhm.
sounds like they're showing you there's a reason for this.
Yeah.
There's a reason, and it's like it's got to be one of the lessons, because we're put on this earth to learn all these lessons, right? To be able to elevate, and so it's got to be. That's brilliant. Okay, that covered 4 and 5 because you did the dream also, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So the last question, Queen Amy, who the fuck do you think you are?
Oh man. I thought I knew this was coming, and I've been thinking about it a lot. And all I'll say is I'm just a soul in a meat suit. And
Hmm.
I'm learning so much, and I'm developing so much, and I'm just a really naturally curious being. And again, I don't have all the answers, and I don't even know who I am. I think I'm still trying to uncover that. And so I would say I'm just an adventurer, an explorer in a meat suit. That's why I love the uh oh gosh, what are they called? The guys that go in the suits, the brown heads, the
The
astronauts.
astronaut?
Yeah,
Astronaut?
I just
Yeah.
consider myself a little bit of an astronaut, just checking things out, exploring, hanging out,
Well,
hoping I help somebody out and leave an impact positively on somebody.
that is a great answer. That's probably one of my favorite answers. Amy, thank you so much for joining me. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I hope we can do this again, because I feel like we just barely scratched the surface of the UFO alien
I
thing.
tell
But
you what, you go listen to some of those telepathy tapes. We're reconvening. This is
okay.
just a 1.0. Yeah, we have much more to talk about.
Okay, great. I have homework. I'm
You
definitely going to
do.
do that.
Yes.
So again, thank you so much. Hey guys, thanks for listening. If there's something out there that's interesting to you, go down the rabbit hole.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Have a great night.
Okay, thank you guys for listening. That was Amy Charlesworth. She's awesome, as you can tell. She's a great conversationalist, man, and I really love every subject, especially the UFO stuff. It's some of my favorite stuff to talk about. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about taking on the opinions of others. What does that mean? For me, it was something that I did in my youth. So let's just say as a kid, I was like, if someone thought less of me or someone had an opinion, I thought they had to be right. They knew more than I did. So I thought, if someone thought that I was a loudmouth, or someone thought that I was not worthy, essentially, I would take on those opinions. I would quiet myself. I would remove myself because I wasn't worthy. I built a habit of that. And as I got into my teens and my 20s, I continued to do this. And it was a negative act on myself, essentially. Because you get older and everyone has an opinion. Not all of it is good. I would have some good positive feedback, right? And I would love that stuff, and I would try to thrive on it. But then I would get that person who was like, you're just not good enough. You're just, you're a second-rate citizen, you're brown, you're only meant to open the door for me, that kind of thing, where I felt like I was okay. They were right about me. Into my 30s, I would even my ex-wife, I remember her saying, this is kind of embarrassing, but we were getting serious, and she had to go and ask her friends if she thought I was worthy enough to be married to. And she would ask herself, even if, she was, I'll say that she was a very good looking woman, no doubt about that. And she wasn't sure. That should have been a massive red flag for me to say, oh, this is not a stable person. And if she's not that into me or whatever, if she's not sure, I shouldn't go into this, right? I shouldn't do this. But did I listen to that? Nope. I felt like this was the best I could do. That was, oh my God, that was my prevailing thought going into my marriage. Holy shit. This is the best I can do. I guess I'll do it. Wow. Anyway, I've been really thinking about this because, I get a lot of flack on Down the Rabbit Hole, all sorts of stuff, and I do not accept it. I don't take it in, and I'm not going to act on it like I used to. It was a habit I had to break. I had to figure that out, and it was difficult to figure out, man, especially when you're used to something, you're in a habit, and you're just like being told certain things. Well, hell, I must be right. That's what I was stuck on all the way up into my marriage. Isn't that crazy? I was 27 when I got married. And then in my 30s, I guess stuff started clicking. In my 40s, it really clicked. And then I turned 46 and I met the person I was going to be with for the rest of my life. And I started to realize, it was even into that relationship, I was like, am I worthy of this? Do I deserve it? And I asked myself that for a lot of stuff. And I finally got to the point where, yeah, I fucking deserve it. Yes, I have earned this. Yes, I'm not going to listen to those people anymore. And it took me a long time to learn this, but I finally learned it. And I'm not going back. I hope you listening out there have figured this out far before I did. I hope you did it in your teens or whatever it took, because that's not a way to live. And if you're still stuck in that, if you're still living up to someone's opinion of yourself, stop doing that. Stop doing it right now. You're a worthy person. You deserve good things in life. You need to work towards that stuff. Don't pay attention to what other people think. It doesn't matter. Only matters what you think. That's the most important thing. It only matters what you think, not anyone else. And I know that's hard. I know it's hard to not listen to others, especially if you like those people, especially if you admire them or whatever. But their thoughts and their opinions don't matter. They don't make you. Only you can do that. It was kind of difficult for me to get that out. But you hear what I'm saying, right? You matter. You deserve. You have reached the point in your life where you've earned this. So take it. Take all the good. Leave all the bad out. Concentrate on the positive stuff. Do not concentrate on the negative stuff. That's not going to get you anywhere. That's just going to give you pain and hurt. And yeah, that's a part of life. But trust me, you're going to feel it. At some point, that's just, I've learned, it doesn't matter how good things are going, there's going to be bad, and you're just going to have to roll with those punches. It's life. And it's fine. But never take someone else's word and make it your gospel. Don't do that. Be better. By the way, I went to Boston, if you couldn't tell. Just got back a couple of days ago. It was great. It was a great trip. Highly recommend Boston. I was blown away. The main trip was to go to Salem, which we did. That was the first thing we did. We landed in Boston, went to Salem. I mean, fucking awesome. Salem's amazing. It's a bucket list item. I never really thought I would go to Boston or had a desire to go to Boston. We had a canceled flight. It got moved to the next day. So we had a day and a half in Boston, and it was awesome. I love it. I want to go back. It's so beautiful. Seaport, you know, it's the fall and the leaves, you know, their color is beautiful over there. Salem is beautiful. Boston is beautiful. There's so much to do in Boston. Holy crap. And I had never seen so many witches in all my life. Holy shit. Salem is filled to the rim with witches. And we got to go to the memorial and put a coin on our good friend's ancestor. Oh man, Elizabeth Ward. That was her ancestor. And it was a good time, man. We really enjoyed it. We got to soak in the history. In Boston, we did the Tea Party Museum, which was great because it's a replica ship where they dumped the tea, and I got to throw some tea over in a box over the ship. That was pretty cool. So if you guys have the means, definitely go to Boston. I highly recommend it. All right, guys, that's it. I will see you later, and if it's interesting to you, go down that rabbit hole.